My name is Layfield. I'm a co-host of Stroud Imagines. Let me show you this. I'm also a road safety person. So I've got a very keen interest in roads and road safety. Tonight I'm here to talk to you about cycling. So first of all, I just want to point out, cycling isn't for everyone. And there are many reasons for this, and if it isn't for you, I don't want you to feel like you suddenly have to dash out and buy a bike, okay? It's just about, the greater good. So why am I here talking about cycling? I'm a district councillor and an active travel lead for the district council. I help manage the walking and cycling fund, and we're working with towns and parishes across the district to support active travel projects. Some small announcements. We're coming to the end of Cycle September, which you may have heard about, which is a national campaign to get people cycling. And I'm proud that between a handful of riders at the district council, we've covered over 1,000 miles this month. The council's approved funding for widening the cycle track between Dudbridge and Ryford, a new e-bike hire scheme that will put more bikes into the hands of people that can't afford to buy an e-bike outright, walking improvements on a school route in Horsley, and a scheme to provide free bike parking stands and ground anchors for local businesses that could also be made available to the public, reducing friction by making parking more available. Cycling isn't for everyone, but it can be, which is why we're looking to hold inclusive cycling sessions at Stratford Park Leisure Centre with adapted bikes. Why are we doing this? Because cycling is great. Apart from the obvious health and mental health benefits, it can boost the local economy and put more pounds back in your pocket. A shift to cycling massively benefits the environment, and many more people cycling frees up road space for public transport, deliveries, emergency services, and for those that have no other option other than to drive. Cycling is so much quicker than walking, and e-bikes make light work out of our terrain, flattening the hills and shortening distances. Cycling connects you to the world outside you in a way nothing else can. You can smell it, you can feel it, you can hear it, you can see it. For many, it can transport you right back to your childhood and the joy you felt when you could cycle over to a friend's house or spend an afternoon in the woods. For me, cycling is exhilarating, it's liberating, it's fun, it's literally revolutionary, it's punk, it's radical. Every bike ride I take is sticking two fingers up to the fossil fuel industry. So now you know why I care so much about cycling. Here's my what-ifs for the future of cycling in Stroud District. What if everyone's invited? Sometimes when something really takes off, you get a pushback against it. There's a cyclists versus cars culture war that we hear a lot about in the media. There's uncertainty around the safety of bike batteries and the general cost of e-bikes. And cycling is often framed in terms of safety and wearing the right gear, which adds a lot of fear and friction that can stop people from taking it up. The simple fact is that the more people who choose to cycle in their ordinary clothes, the more visible we all are on the roads going about our daily lives, the more acceptable and the more affordable cycling will be. And when you strip away the costs of fuel, parking, maintenance and vehicle tax, cycling is already much more affordable than driving. More cyclists on the road increases the likelihood of dedicated provision being made available, not just for bikes, but for walking and wheeling too, ultimately making our streets safer for everyone. But first, a word of warning. In Victorian times, a health scare was drummed up to deter women from cycling, with a talk of how too much cycling could lead to the development of an unsightly bicycle face, a rictus grin and manly features. This is how it happens. I've got a little video to share, if I can figure out how to get to it. Okay, so the Women's Festival of Cycling actually happened in 2019, but I'm just going to throw it out there. What a great idea. We need a Stroud Women's Festival of Cycling. And I totally take your points made earlier about confidence on the roads. It's quite hard to feel confident, and it's harder still to feel confident as a woman cycling. There is more that we can do about that. So my first what if is, what if everyone felt comfortable and safe hopping on a bike to make a journey, or more than one journey even? I'll leave that with you. What if number 2? Speed limits. A key problem with cycling in and around Stroud District is the speed of other road users. In Britain, there's a cultural mindset that the speed limit is a floor, not a ceiling. You must drive at least at the speed limit, and often several miles an hour above it. This is partly driven by a legal quirk that allows you to drive at the speed limit plus 10%, rendering hard limits a little bit fuzzy. Oh, I might be all right if I do 32, 33. I live on Bath Road in Rodborough, a busy commuter route, and I can hear cars going up and down outside my house at speeds way in excess of the speed limit. Sometimes it sounds like they're travelling at double that or more, especially late at night when the road's empty. So what if we had blanket 20-mile-an-hour limit in residential areas, or to be more precise, in areas where cars and other vulnerable road users mix. Wales has just instituted a national 20-mile-an-hour limit in these areas. It eliminates uncertainty, reduces rapid acceleration and braking, which are key air pollution particulate emitters. It will reduce the tragedy of road deaths, and it will save drivers money and likely time too. People will probably still drive slightly above the speed limit because of that fuzzy rule, but 23 miles an hour on roads where people are trying to cross the road, when people are trying to go to school, is far safer than 36 plus on our narrow streets. This is achievable, but it requires political will from the county council to deliver it. And believe me, we've tried. We've tried really hard in Rodborough for the last decade to get the blanket 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, and it's not easy. There's not a lot of excitement or interest in it from highways because they want to move more vehicles as quickly as possible through those routes. What if number 3? If I was to say the word woonifs, does that mean anything to anyone? Woonifs. It's a strange word, Dutch word. Woonifs, right. In the Netherlands, they have a saying, cars are guests in our community. And this is best exemplified by the creation of woonifs, or shared spaces that prioritise the safety and well-being of pedestrians, cyclists and residents over the convenience of motorised traffic. Typically, woonifs are streets where cars are welcome, but pedestrians are prioritised. And this is achieved by extending the pavement across the street entrance, so the pavement's unbroken and cars have to cross over it to enter the street. There's a powerful psychological message in this to drivers. You are entering a pedestrian-friendly space, so drive carefully. Other traffic calming measures, such as narrowed roadways and street furniture, also encourage drivers to take care. I don't hate drivers, I don't hate cars, but what I'm very wary of is when people's right to walk is impinged upon. And I see this on Bath Road. The road is like a river. You cannot cross it at certain times of day. And I see children going to school every day and they're trying to get across that road. There's one set of traffic lights at the far end, there's one at the other end. And the speed of driving doesn't help that. So what if street-based community campaigned to get woonifs put in place? So what if, number 4? This is my big what if, and I'm quite prepared to be laughed out of the house for this, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. From my sense of the difficulties Stroud faces, Stroud district, and it's got a very varied topography. It's flat at one end, it's very hilly at the other. We've got narrow, windy roads. We've got hills and more hills. We've got fast-moving traffic, and we've got a lot of on-street parking. Yeah, perfectly legal. Sometimes not. School pickup is a bit of a grey area, but there's a lot of cars parked on the road. Stroud district has real problems when it comes to the cycle infrastructure. A lack of funding for a start. The terrain is unlike the wide open flat areas you'll find in many cities, with narrow winding roads and fast moving traffic, hills and lots of parking. I'm a considerate cyclist. I'm careful and slow when I meet pedestrians, as you point out it should be. I always announce my presence when I advance or come behind someone, often with a direction, such as, I'm coming past you on the left. Sometimes cyclists get a lot of stick for getting in the way, particularly if they're on a leisure trip rather than going somewhere. Going somewhere for a purpose. And I thought that's unfair. In a perfect world, I'd be on a segregated cycle lane, much like the praised Golden Valley route design, the A419. There's a wonderful design that splits it. It's got a line of trees right down the middle of it. It's probably never ever going to get built because it's just too expensive, but it's a wonderful vision of how it could be. But the reality here is stark. The opportunity to put in a 3 to 4 metre wide, LTN 120 compliant, two-way cycle infrastructure alongside our roads is very limited. Cycling infrastructure is being put into place, but traffic management strategy routinely adopts what is known as the pipeline problem. How to get as many vehicles from point A to point B as quickly as possible. And you'll see this with the cycle spines you might have heard about that GCC are building across the county. This is great for commuters, but it entirely sidelines the majority of local journeys that might be from home, to school, to town, to the supermarket, to the doctors, back home, to school. Multi-point journeys aren't very well serviced by massive cycle infrastructure. We need a more finely tuned, locally optimised solution. So what if? What if we redesignated some key roads as one way, with half the road given over to bi-directional cycle routes that are wide and safe? Half the road would be for bikes, and cars might need to travel a little further to benefit from the convenience of having a motor. Road maintenance costs would be halved. traffic could flow freely and cycling would be the default easiest option for short journeys. Many car journeys are only 1 to 2 miles. So you see people taking, I don't know, a Discovery, a 4x4, an SUV to Aldi to get a bag of shopping. It's a luxury proposition to be able to do that. It's such a waste of the Earth's resources to do that for that purpose. So let's make it easier for people to do it another way. This is my vision, a Stroud where wherever you are, it's easy to get from A to B and C, and more convenient for shorter journeys by bike or by wheeling or walking, where there's enough road space for everyone to comfortably mix, and where road users are considerate to each other and recognise that in built-up areas, pedestrians rule. So how do we make it happen? I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you.